Welcome to Troy, TrojanVision's 2024 spring semester in review. I'm Paige Ray. Let's get started. Back in January, students returned to Troy for the second half of the 2023-2024 academic year. Jameson Fowler talks to students to see what new goals they had for the new year.
New year, new semester. At least that's what most students at Troy University are saying while ringing in the new year. Many say they hope the semester will be better than the last.
I have a nervous excitement. I think every semester is unique and different and offers its own challenges and its own opportunities, so I'm excited. Troy is really like my home, so it is kind of bittersweet, but I'm excited because I know that better things are ahead.
Some returning students are glad to be back on campus, while new students say they are excited to start their journey at Troy.
Back home, my school was really small, so we didn't really have a lot of clubs, and there's hundreds on campus, and I'm just really excited to join everybody and be part of a little family. I hope I can get better at the school portion, studying and just getting better at everything in general, or just becoming more social, because I kind of stay to myself, so I want to get more out there.
With a new year and a new attitude towards the journey ahead of them, many Troy students are moving into the start of the 2024 semester with their heads held high and ready for the opportunities to come. Jameson Fowler, Troy, TrojanVision News.
The new year also brought a new development from the Troy University Police Department. Here in the city of Troy, there aren't a lot of options for transportation. There are no cab services after 5 o'clock and no rideshare services such as Uber or Lyft. But as Emily Clegg explains, there is now a new option for Troy University students that aims to prevent drunk driving.
It's a police cruiser in the front and a taxi in the back. TUPD has officially released its newest program that aims to prevent students from drunk driving.
Unfortunately, we've seen a slight uptick in DUI arrests amongst our students. We've had a couple of traffic accidents with our students involved that revolved around alcohol-related driving. Did a little research, and of course in the city of Troy, there are no cab services after 5 p.m. There's no rideshare programs available. So we were just looking for an opportunity to kind of figure out a way to help the students.
The new Choose Your Ride program allows students to request a ride home from TUPD police officers.
Do the students have to live on campus? Absolutely not. We're trying to provide a service to all of our students. They'll have to verify their student status. They'll show us their student ID. It's really designed to help our students out. We don't have any problem with picking up 2-3 students at one time.
Now, to get picked up by a vehicle such as one behind me, all you have to do is request a ride service through the OmniAlert app or call the TUPD non-emergency phone number. There are a few stipulations that apply to the Choose Your Ride program.
There's a limit on the mileage as far as how far we'll go. It's a 4-mile radius around the city limits of Troy, which basically covers most any place in Troy where our students might be engaging in use of alcohol.
The Choose Your Ride service is mainly intended for students who are 21 and older.
We'll still come get them if they're under 21. There is a small caveat. We are going to do a report, and it's going to go to student services. We're not going to do any criminal prosecution. We're not going to do anything that's going to give them any serious trouble.
TUPD says the most important thing to them is student safety.
I think it's well worth the number of rides that we may give. I think we're potentially saving students' lives. Potentially saving lives of others on the roadway, and potentially keeping our students from going to jail.
Staying with TUPD News, school shootings remained a critical issue alongside gun violence here in the U.S. That's why TUPD has spent the semester training to keep this campus safe. Jameson Fowler reports.
Now, with more school shootings than ever over the last couple of years, I took a look into just how Troy plans on keeping its campus safe.
I believe that violence is going to keep on getting worse and worse and worse. I believe the only way we can stop it is, education and just helping us watch the warning signs of what's going on before it actually could happen. Because all these school shootings could have been stopped. People just spoken up and said something beforehand.
Last July, TUPD installed an active shooter simulation device, allowing TUPD officers to train in active shooter simulations and how to handle them. Jackson states that over 90% of TUPD officers have completed all 300 simulations that the device offers.
We actually teach a class here called LAST. We actually taught it in Dothan, in Montgomery, and in Phoenix City. And basically, there's a lot of warning signs that we're being social reclusive. One of the biggest warning signs is people putting things on social media and really bragging about what they're going to do. The Parkland shooter bragged for over a year what he's going to do before he actually went to Parkland and shot the school up.
According to a study by CNN and the U.S. Census Bureau, there have been over 16 school shootings this year alone. Just last Monday, one occurred at Alabama A&M, leaving one student injured. That's why it's not just about spotting the warning signs. Jackson says training and preparedness play a huge role in responding well to active shooter situations.
So if somebody is actively shooting, is to run as far away from the shooting as possible. Then hide's another one. If you can't run away, hide in place, and not just hide in place, but find something to hide with, whether it's a pen, a pencil, a pocket knife, whatever you possibly have, something to defend yourself. And last one is to fight. If your life is valuable and your life means something to you, you're going to fight for it.
You never know when one may happen, and that's why TUPD says to always be prepared to keep you and your loved ones out of harm's way. Jameson Fowler, Troy, TrojanVision News.
According to TUPD's annual safety report, officers made one arrest in 2021 for a person carrying a weapon. 2022 saw 7 arrests for that same category. The report doesn't show the numbers for 2023 just yet, but you can find the most recent report on TUPD's website. Speaking of safety, an updated radio tower right outside Wallace Hall aims to connect University police to those of the city and county. Neela Cole learns how that new system can help in emergency situations.
Troy University Police Department is installing a new transmitter that will help in making emergency calls faster and clearer for emergency service agencies.
There are so many things that we've been working on for the last 2 years. It's just nice to finally be here today where we can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we're hoping here very soon that in the event of an emergency, that'll really save us a lot of time.
Originally, all of the emergency service agencies had different radios, but now with the use of this tower, all of these agencies are able to order radios that are the same.
When we consolidated with the 911 center in Pike County, all of the emergency service agencies have started dispatching through that center about 2 years ago. But one of the shortcomings still was the equipment.
So what does this mean for the students, faculty, and staff on campus in the event of an emergency situation? Well, now a direct communication will come through on one channel with other agencies without going through a dispatcher. While this is considered phase 1, phase 2 will be other agencies in Pike County added in.
It's something that we needed. We absolutely need the ability to communicate with our partners off campus. There's frequent situations where police and fire come on campus to assist us, and vice versa. We go off campus to assist them. Just the ability to communicate that much faster, it makes a huge difference. When it comes down to something when we really need to communicate immediately, the saving of the time equals the potential for saving lives.
Neela Cole, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Turning to other news now, this semester saw several big political figures coming to Alabama, and in the case of this next story, to Pike County. Back in February, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg visited Lockheed Martin. While here, he explained how the weapons that company produces aid NATO allies. Emma Ellis has the story.
Pike County is on the international stage. Lockheed Martin's Pike County Operations Facility tests and manufactures weapons for the United States military. Wednesday, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg flew to Alabama to tour the facility.
Maybe you sometimes believe it's far from here, Pike County, to the forests in Ukraine, but it's a very close link. What you do here makes a difference there every day.
Weapons produced right here at Lockheed Martin in Pike County get sent to Ukraine to aid in the war against Russia. And Stoltenberg says this aid is imperative.
If President Putin wins in Ukraine, it's not only a tragedy for the Ukrainians, it's also dangerous for us.
He says the war in Ukraine is an example to other authoritarian leaders, and the outcome sets a precedent for future conflicts.
The price we have to pay if President Putin wins is much higher than the price we pay today to help the Ukrainians fight for their freedom. Today it's Ukraine, tomorrow it could be Taiwan. So what happens in Ukraine is closely watched in Beijing, and therefore this goes far beyond Ukraine.
Stoltenberg says the work done in Pike County provides security across the world.
It is important for me to tell you that what you produce here, what you do here every day, is making NATO stronger and all of us safer and more secure.
Emma Ellis, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Wasn't the only major figure to visit this semester. In March, Vice President Kamala Harris was in Selma to commemorate the annual Bloody Sunday March. Thousands of people cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge each year to honor the sacrifices made in the fight for freedom years ago. Sarah Campbell takes us back.
Over the weekend, Vice President Kamala Harris was in Selma, Alabama. There, she helped commemorate the 59th annual Bloody Sunday Memorial March.
Shoulder to shoulder, they marched for the freedoms that were theirs by birth and theirs by right. The freedom to vote, the freedom to live without fear of violence or intimidation, the freedom to be full and equal members of our nation.
The annual bridge crossing is to remember the infamous March for Black voting rights that took place here in 1965.
They were forced to retreat, and yet they would not be deterred, defeated, or denied.
Behind me is the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where the annual march takes place. This bridge symbolizes the fight for civil rights and equality. People from all over come to march across it.
I've never missed crossing this bridge. I started with my parents back in the day. People risked their lives to vote, to be able to vote. And now I'm not keeping that dream alive. I'm gonna try it every time I do.
Harris reminds us that this bridge represents the struggle for freedom that many continue to face.
Freedom is fundamental to the promise of America. Freedom is not to be given. It is not to be bestowed. It is ours by right.
Sarah Campbell, Troy, TrojanVision News.
During that story, you saw images of John Robert Lewis. Well, this semester also saw the 21st annual John Robert Lewis Leadership Conference here at Troy. Reporter Camille Coney has that story.
The conference was held over the weekend, honoring the legacy of the late Congressman John Robert Lewis. There were keynote speakers such as Michelle Summers and Rodney Bullard that spoke with guests about leadership.
So to be able to not only come to Troy, but to know that this is his birthplace and this is his legacy, and then to see that this city, this nation still honors him and is still very excited about getting in good trouble and doing those things, not just for blacks, but for society as a whole.
On the second day of the conference, attendees had their sessions. The adult sessions were held in the Trojan Center Theater, while the students had their sessions in John Robert Lewis Hall.
He talked about how music can create change, not only create change, also creates a communication, a conversation amongst people.
In the student session, guest speaker Henry Everett gave students some advice to help develop those leadership skills.
A lot of people tell you, want to be in a leadership position, but sometimes you got to be a great follower. In order to be a great follower, it's a great worker also. So I just say always just chop wood and carry. No matter where it goes, just do it.
One student expressed how she feels about being able to attend this year's conference.
I've seen the effects of the work that leaders such as Dr. King has pursued in my local hometown. So being able to move to Troy and see leaders such as Congressman John Robert Lewis and the impact he's made here, I hope that this conference leaves them feeling inspired and ready to tackle new challenges.
Camille Coney, Troy, TrojanVision News.
After that conference, 8 students were rewarded the Lamar P. Higgins Award. Those students included Amelia Nettles, Anna Grace Holland, Caitlin Blackman, Chris Jenkins, Marcellus Martin, Rose Hilarion, Tayshawn Williams, and Zion Graham Lee. In other news, the Leadership Conference wasn't the only event to happen on campus that promoted unity. This semester, the Student Government Association held its Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, or DEI Week. Reporter Tyron Robinson gives us a look at this unity walk that was part of DEI Week and the SGA's response to the recent DEI controversy.
Unity walks have historically been a way for people to come together to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, and togetherness. That is why the Troy University Student Government Association holds DEI Week and a Unity Walk every year.
It's just a very diverse campus that's coming together to unify what is really important and to emphasize the importance of, unity and what we're here to do.
SGA members say the walk brings people together.
Our main goal is to promote conversation between students of all different backgrounds and walks of life.
The walk comes at a time where DEI programs are facing scrutiny. Wednesday, Alabama Governor Kay Ivey signed the Divisive Concepts Bill. Once it goes into effect, the bill will ban state funding of DEI programs in schools, public colleges, and state agencies.
I think it's very important to still show that we care about others and we want to make sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that never gets left out of the conversation.
Some Troy students say there are benefits to participating in DEI activities.
You get to learn different things from different people. You get a different perspective on things. You get enlightenment on different things that you never heard of, you never thought about.
The Unity Walk wasn't the only DEI Week event. The SGA also held a diversity handprints painting event and on-campus interview. Tyron Robinson, Troy TrojanVision News.
The theme of unity continued during this semester's Holi event. Holi is a significant Hindu festival that celebrates colors, love, and the arrival of spring. In mid-March, nations collided when international and domestic students celebrated Holi on Troy's quad. Emma Ellis takes us there.
And today we went to the Holi Festival. It's where you throw colors on everybody and you celebrate.
There are many different ways to celebrate the beginning of spring. One way people from the Hindu tradition celebrate is with the Holi festival.
Holi is the Hindu festival of colors. It marks the beginning of spring and a triumph of good over evil.
It was a surprise for us that university organized a Holi for us, and it was very good. Like, we are all, many international students are all there, and we are playing and having fun.
One student told TrojanVision this day marks one of the most meaningful times of his year.
Usually I had a tough time getting up for school, but for Holi I would get up and it would mean playing colors, especially in water, all day. To this day, one of the fondest memories I have from Holi.
For many international students who are far from home, having familiar festivals here in Alabama can ease homesickness.
It's kind of difficult staying away from home, especially during a festival, but seeing the university put something together for this festival, it means a lot.
International students weren't the only ones taking part in the fun. Some domestic students say they learned a lot and had a great time while doing it.
It's important not only to the people whose culture it's representing, but also for students like me who are from this area, who are not familiar with these sort of traditions, so that I can get a little bit more of an insight about what actually goes on in different countries.
Even though you may not belong to a certain tradition, Bennett says it's important to learn about other cultures to increase your global competency. Emma Ellis, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Holi is a public holiday in India. It's also one of the country's most celebrated festivals. Switching gears now, the Southeast Journalism Conference is an annual event that's been happening here at Troy since 1987. It's one of the biggest journalism conferences in the country, and this year, Troy University was the host. Emily Clegg takes us to this year's conference.
Trojan territory was extra crowded over the weekend. This is because Troy University hosted this year's Southeast Journalism Conference.
It's made up of several dozen schools that come together in order to have their student journalist network, have better access to professional journalists, and just kind of ignite a passion for the industry.
Many students traveled multiple hours to Troy to learn about journalism and grow their skills.
I feel like I've had some networking opportunities where I could meet other people around my age that want to do the same thing after graduation. So I think that that's probably been what I got the most out of it. I learned a lot about, the industry and what the industry looks like today.
Students like Tomlin got to participate in a variety of on-site competitions that reflected real-world job responsibilities.
I've never been to an actual press conference, so I thought it was really interesting to see the actual setup of what a press conference is going to look like in the future when I'm reporting on one. And on top of that, I just felt like it was kind of different because I didn't have all my sources there right in front of me. I kind of had to organically go find other sources to kind of support the story that I was writing.
Professionals within the industry also traveled to Troy to provide advice to aspiring journalists.
Well, I hope that it gave them a little bit more realistic expectation on what to, search for. Hopefully I can save them from some of the troubles that I've had personally, entering into the business, and I hope I was able to give them some good advice.
Next year's Southeast Journalism Conference will be hosted by Mississippi State University.
That was Emily Clegg reporting. In other top stories, books have been under scrutiny for the past few years. This year, an Alabama organization made a decision that could change the trajectory of Alabama's public libraries. Reporter Mackenzie Foster talks with the Dean of University Libraries to get his thoughts.
Alabama's Public Library Service has decided to not renew Alabama's American Library Association membership. Here's what the Dean of University Libraries for Troy University thinks about the decision.
I don't think it is a really good idea, but I'm not sure that it changes much of anything. I think it's political maneuvering, and I don't think the public really understands the ALA. Nor should they, by the way. I mean, it is not something that really should come into their consciousness on a regular basis.
Schaefer thinks the discussion of what kinds of books to have in public libraries could lead to a not-so-good result.
If we try as a nation, a community, to start telling everybody, well, you can't read this, you can't read that, it's going to be an empty building. I mean, if you don't like a book, don't read it.
For those wondering if Alabama's decision will affect Troy University's library, Schaefer says it will not.
Most of our librarians are members of ALA. It is a requirement not by Troy University, but from our accrediting bodies that our librarians are educated by ALA accredited schools.
Mackenzie Foster, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Some journalism students may now have a better understanding of that library controversy after this year's M. Stanton Evans Journalism Symposium. This year's guest speaker talked to students about what it's like to cover that kind of story and what it takes to be an investigative reporter. Neela Cole explains.
Troy alumnus and Alabama political reporter Jacob Holmes has seen his share of backlash and controversy. 1 year ago, Holmes started covering conflicting opinions about what should be available in the children's section of the Autauga-Prattville Library. That coverage ultimately sparked national attention and controversy.
Your job as a reporter is to try and get information that's important to the public. Your job is to get that information for the public because you have a little bit of an elevated position.
The story got even bigger after Holmes began requesting information through Alabama's Open Meetings Act and Open Records Act.
I can't think of any time it would be illegal to ask somebody to give you information. It could be illegal for them to give it, but in this case, it's very simple.
As Holmes uncovered more information, opponents began calling him a fake reporter and accused him of spreading fake news.
Just because they're adding a lie about you, that you're doing something fake, you can't let that deter you. You just try and prove to people your accuracy and your fairness in your work.
Through his coverage, librarians at the Autauga-Prattville Library found a way to voice their concerns. Holmes' coverage has also grabbed the attention of other librarians, such as Dr. Chris Schaefer.
I was just really happy to be here and see a Troy graduate who's done such a fantastic job. But I think one of the things that both journalists and librarians do is, we're interested in the truth, we're interested in freedom of information. So I thought it was a great talk, and he's doing a great job.
Despite the controversy he continues to face, Holmes intends to follow this story until its conclusion. He's also sharing his experience to help future journalists be more prepared for a career in news.
Find the truth and report the truth, regardless of what anyone says.
You can follow Holmes' coverage via the Alabama Political Reporter. Neela Cole, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Staying in the Hall School, we saw an exciting development for Troy Public Radio when the station received a surprise when it entered a raffle and ended up winning a multi-$1,000 grant. Sarah Campbell has more.
An exciting announcement was made last December that greatly affected Troy Public Radio, a $10,000 grant.
They said, we're going to hold the live stream, so send out the link, but they said that we also have a donation from a generous corporate sponsor of $10,000, and we're going to hold a drawing. And one station that's participating gets $10,000.
The grant was presented by actor Neil Patrick Harris and radio personality Ira Glass. Troy Public Radio, among hundreds of other stations, entered in a raffle for this grant.
And it was just a randomly chosen station. In fact, like the email in which we entered was just a 2-word email. They said, do you want to be part of it? And I said, yes, please.
Troy Public Radio was the lucky winner.
She said, are you sitting down? And I said, I am now. And she said, well, okay, I've got big news for you. If you weren't watching last night, you guys were the station that was randomly chosen, and you got $10,000.
They plan on using the money from this grant to extend their programming and give back to their viewers.
It's just another way that we can extend the service that we do. Really, it's all about them giving to the station and then us being able to give back through this generous gift.
Troy Public Radio is very grateful for this award and honored to be recognized by such a well-known program.
Thank you, Ira Glass. Thank you, Neil Patrick Harris. Thank you, This American Life. And just really, it was really a great moment for us.
Sarah Campbell, Troy, TrojanVision News.
TPR plans to use that grant money to extend its programming and give back to its radio sponsors. Now, it wouldn't be a semester in review without talking about this next story, Walk Hard 2024. Many students choose to go to the beach for spring break, but most take a car or plane. One group of Alpha Tau Omega fraternity brothers decided to walk, and not for a vacation. Emma Ellis explains.
Would you walk 128.3 miles? What if it was for a good cause? The Men of Troy's ATO chapter do just that with their annual philanthropy event, Walk Hard.
It's a 6-day event where we walk 128.3 miles from Troy University to Panama City Beach, raising money for Jeep Sullivan's Outdoor Adventures.
Jeep Sullivan's Outdoor Adventures is a Christian-focused project that takes wounded veterans on hunting and fishing trips at no cost to the veterans.
When these veterans come back from their service, they're not always in the best place, so he's a really good friend to them, takes them on these missions, and brings them to the gospel, and he's always there for them in a time of need.
Marshall says Walk Hard's mission is close to the hearts of many ATO members.
Some that hits home for a lot of the guys in ATO. Veterans are not always appreciated the way they should be whenever they come back home. They really need to know people out there care about them. We love them. We're here for them. We want to make sure that they're able to do everything they want to because they've done so much for us. And try to give back in what ways we can.
Though there may be easier ways to get to the beach, for Walk Hard participants, there is no way that is more meaningful.
You can always take a car, you'll get there in about 2 hours, but you know you're on the right road when others are turning around, when it gets hard.
Though walking 128.3 miles is no easy task, Marshall says the faces of the veterans who participate in Jeep Sullivan's Outdoor Adventures make it all worth it. Emma Ellis, Troy, TrojanVision News.
The walkers spent the night at several churches along their route. During their rest periods, veterans visited them and talked to them about their own stories and military service. Then, 5 days after leaving Troy, the brothers of Alpha Tau Omega arrived at Pier Park in Panama City Beach. This video shows the moment the brothers stepped onto the beach and the finish line for this year's walk. Walkers were surrounded by supporters, including their fellow fraternity brothers, their family members, veterans, and Troy University leaders like Chancellor Dr. Jack Hawkins Jr. and First Lady Janice Hawkins. By the end of the walk, Troy's ATO fraternity had raised $105,000 for Jeep Sullivan's Outdoor Adventures. Turning to other news now, this semester, Troy University announced it would be raising its tuition prices. Then, a few weeks later, the university announced a new program it says will save students money when buying textbooks and other course materials. Belle Johnson tells us more about this new program.
Troy University is partnering with Barnes & Noble to present the Trojan Book Bag Program. According to the university, the program is designed to make course materials such as textbooks more affordable for students.
If you're a student, then you know the nightmare of getting to class, trying to determine what materials you need to succeed.
Students will be automatically enrolled in the program when they register for the fall 2024 semester or term classes. If students do not want to participate, they do have the option to opt out.
If a student can find a better deal, let's say a student has materials from a friend or a relative, and there would be no cost to the student because all their materials is supplied through another means, sure, the students can opt out, and they can opt back in the next term or semester.
The program will charge students $21 per credit hour for required course materials. The materials would then be delivered to students up to 30 days before the first day of classes. Bookout says this system will eliminate most of the cost of class materials.
A typical general chemistry book costs $278. Students will not pay $278, they'll pay $84 because it's a 4-hour class. That's $198 savings of 70%. Now apply that to 12, 15 hours per semester, 9 hours per term.
Trojan Book Bag comes after the university announced an increase in tuition for the upcoming school year. Bookout says he hopes the program will help offset the new tuition cost.
The last thing we want to do is to charge students more money for an education. We did request a slight increase in tuition, and this will offset that tuition increase.
The Trojan Book Bag program will be available starting in the fall. Belle Johnson, Troy, TrojanVision News.
As Belle mentioned, students do have the option to opt out of that program. More information about that process as well as deadlines can be found on TrojanVision's website. Speaking of important financial updates from the university, students were made aware of updates to the free application for a federal student aid form, which is also known as FAFSA. Neela Cole has more.
The free application for federal student aid opened for students towards the end of the month in December 2023. This application came with a few new changes regarding tax information, Pell Grant amounts, and fewer questions.
The new FAFSA form for 24-25 is more streamlined, so the reduction of questions has been reduced from 108 to 36. Also, you'll be able to import your IRS information directly into the FAFSA, so you won't have to type it up manually. They're going to expand eligibility for federal student aid as well as for federal Pell Grant. Remember though, is that everyone will be considered a contributor to your FAFSA form. So if your parents are required to contribute some piece of information to your FAFSA, they will have to have their own FSA ID.
The application now allows students to list more colleges than previous years allowed and is available in more than 2 languages. It is important that students apply as soon as possible so that their eligibility can be determined at a reasonable time.
Every student should fill out the FAFSA just because you don't know if you're eligible or not, or what you may be eligible for. So it never hurts to fill it out. It doesn't obligate you to anything, and it doesn't obligate your parents to anything.
For anyone completing the FAFSA form, make sure to set up an account on studentaid.gov and that your contributor has an account as well. Have your 2022 tax information on hand and any other personal information that will come in handy.
This is the biggest change we've had in quite some time. We haven't experienced any issues in the past. This year, the Department of Education has had some delays, and we will see continued delays in releasing the student data to the institutions. But all institutions will face these challenges. So it will be a slower process this year, and it may be a little delayed, but we will help all students that we can help.
Neela Cole, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Students who need help with that FAFSA process are encouraged to visit the Financial Aid Office. That office is located in the Adams Administration Building on the Quad. You can also submit a help desk ticket at my.troy.edu. Meanwhile, hundreds of students are scrambling to find their next school after Birmingham Southern College announced it would be shutting its doors in May. Students now facing the question, where will they choose to transfer? Troy University now aiming to make that transition as easy as possible for students who want Troy to be their new home. Emma Ellis explains.
Last week, Birmingham Southern College announced it would be shutting its doors for good, leaving current and committed students in a predicament. Troy University wants to help.
We just feel really sad, really sad for the institution, really sad for the students, the faculty and staff, and the community that Birmingham Southern sits in Birmingham, just sad for everybody affected.
Mackenzie says Troy will waive the application fee for students from Birmingham Southern. Troy University Admissions is also promising to work with each student individually to make the transition as easy as possible.
I'm working with each individual student as an individual basis to look at transfer matrices and make sure that we can transfer over as many credits as possible towards their degree here at Troy.
Mackenzie says for students who wish to transfer to Troy from Birmingham Southern, the process is simple.
Step one would be just to put an inquiry in our system through troy.edu, or they can send me an email and we can get that conversation started on what that looks like. If Troy is where they want to be, then it's our job to help them make that a reality.
Transfer students from Birmingham Southern will receive expedited transcript evaluation and the opportunity to take advantage of Troy's transfer scholarships. Emma Ellis, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Switching to theater news now, this semester the Department of Theater and Dance debuted several popular productions. The first, a cult classic. Camille Coney has more about the production called Heathers.
Some say Heathers is the original Mean Girls of the 80s, but with a twist.
Heathers is based on a movie from 1989 by the same name. It features Veronica Sawyer, who is a teen girl her senior year going through struggles with mean girls and what happens when you give over to that dark side of yourself.
Cast members hope audience members relate to the production's core concepts.
This show was chosen because not only were the students really excited about the idea of doing this show with it being so fun and easily recognizable, but a lot of the struggles that the characters go through are ones that we've all experienced or we go through on a day-to-day basis, and it satirizes those struggles in a way that makes it really fun, and I think it was a really exciting process.
One crew member hopes audience members walk away with a valuable lesson.
I hope that they gain a sense of understanding oneself and understanding that it's okay to be different and to value life from everyone, whether or not they are popular or not popular.
Camille Coney, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Weeks after Heathers took its final bow, the theater department debuted another production that combined classic fairy tale characters with real-life emotions. Reporter Emily Clegg tells us about the department's version of Into the Woods.
Troy University's Department of Theater and Dance has been hard at work this semester, perfecting the fairy tale world of Into the Woods.
The designers have created a world, we've been calling it a patchwork world. So you're going to see pieces and parts that are gathered together to make a really rich texture, something that's rich and diverse and complex when you take a look at it.
Theater students put a lot of creative thought and effort into their show.
I came to find that everybody has a witch in their life, and I pulled from a lot of witches of my childhood, from Disney movies and from just different sources from my life, and from witches that were part of my life, both real and fictional, and I tried to create someone that I still haven't decided whether or not she's really evil.
The musical is said to take the audience members on a journey where they learn a few life lessons along the way.
Into the Woods is definitely based on fairy tales and folk tales, but it's relevant now because it's got themes of our families and the things that we wish for and what happens when you get what you wish for. Does it work out the way you hope or not?
I think there's a lot of different morals and lessons to be taken from this show, and it changes every single time.
Averett says that the show is enjoyable for all audiences.
It's really like a musical play that's a really rich set of stories, and I think even if you're not a musical lover, like a musical theater lover, I think you would really like this show.
Emily Clegg, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Theater and dance students weren't the only ones working on a show. Students inside the Sorrell College of Business spent months preparing for this year's International Trade Show. Recently, the College of Business was transformed into an international showcase thanks to one class. Emily Clegg has the details.
Sorrell College of Business students taking the Managing in a Global Environment class hosted an international trade show that took passersby on a trip around the world.
A lot of the units in class have been about like transplant workers, those who go to other countries to work. And so I think this is giving us a basis of how to research and how to do that in the future if we are in that situation.
Students have been researching their countries all semester long as part of their final grade.
It was definitely extensive. There was a lot that went into it, but we just kind of took it incrementally, week by week, planning and organizing, and it all really came together in the last 2 weeks.
Not only did the project allow students to learn about the global market, but it also allowed them to learn about a place that's foreign.
There's hundreds of millions of people that you can reach just from Austria, and I didn't expect the number to be that big, but it is such a bridge to the entirety of the European Union.
The booths displayed economic and cultural issues, as well as food and music from around the countries. It is also a competition.
Just to see who gives the best experience, who's the most knowledgeable about their country. So I think those are just the criteria that they're going off of.
The International Trade Show is in lieu of a final exam for the class. Emily Clegg, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Speaking of shows, after a years-long hiatus due to COVID-19, the John M. Long School of Music presented its honors recital. 8 students were selected to perform in front of their peers, instructors, and community. Camille Coney takes us to this year's recital.
Brass, reeds, and percussion were all on display Thursday night during the Long School of Music's honors recital.
We decided to hire 3 judges. It's external. It's outside Troy University. So some of the judges from Florida and also from the different places of Alabama. So we selected 8 outstanding musicians so they get to perform on the stage.
The honors recital was put on hold for a few years because of COVID. One student says he's glad to have the recital back.
This recital was actually a thing before COVID, and ever since COVID hit, it kind of fizzled out, and so I was very excited to be on the first one back.
Organizers say the concert's off-campus location helps increase community engagement.
A great opportunity for us to outreach to the community and also introduce that let our community know how exactly we are doing and introduce our students to the community as well.
Thursday's concert also marked one student's final performance at Troy.
This is honestly just an amazing experience that I've had playing for everybody, and I'm a senior, so my time is coming up. So it's just honestly refreshing to get this opportunity, and so I'm grateful for it.
This was the first time the honors recital was held off campus at the Johnson Center for the Arts.
Back on campus, students in the English department spent this semester preparing for this year's Hall Waters Prize. Reporter Mackenzie Foster introduces us to this year's recipient.
Troy University honored Patricia Foster as its 2024 Hall Waters Prize recipient. Foster is currently a professor at the University of Iowa, but she's originally from Fairhope, Alabama.
I live in Iowa, where the trees are still very stark. There's maybe a little bit of blossoms, but here everything's in bloom, and it feels like the culture is very much in bloom, too. There's sort of energy as well as beauty.
Foster primarily writes works that apply to the nonfiction genre. Foster says that she thinks the genre of creative nonfiction is important.
We read autobiographies, we read memoirs of people because they move us to know the individual and the individual coming of age journey, the individual health journey, the individual that's in trauma.
Foster has been teaching for a little over 25 years. She's taught and written about some very hard topics like gender inequality, mental illness, poverty, and even death. She says she brings up these topics because her students are eager to learn.
They would be irritated if you don't talk about the hard questions, and not just the hard questions in terms of culture, but the hard questions in terms of literature.
Foster's recipient ceremony ended with students being able to ask her questions about her career, her love for nonfiction, books she's written, and other questions related to her being an author. Mackenzie Foster, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Foster has written 8 books. Her most recent published work is Written in the Sky, Lessons of a Southern Daughter. She read excerpts of that book during this year's recipient ceremony. Turning to Trojan athletics now, this semester brought a new head football coach to Troy. It came after former head coach John Summerall left for Tulane and Troy was left without a head coach. A little luck of the Irish, however, helped Troy find a new one. Nathaniel Bliss has the details.
After a conference championship and an upcoming bowl game against a Power 5 opponent, there was only one thing that could stop the Trojans, and that was the departure of head coach John Summerall, who, after 2 years at Troy, left for the Big Easy to become Tulane's head coach. The search for Summerall's successor began with less than a month until the Birmingham Bowl, and the man that took the job? Jared Parker. Parker's last coaching job was at Notre Dame, where he was the tight ends coach and offensive coordinator for 2 years. He also has head coaching experience, serving as the interim head coach at Purdue in 2016. With a new job, however, comes new challenges. Not only did Troy lose a significant part of the coaching staff, but many players from the conference championship team, including Gunnar Watson and Kamani Vidal, graduated or transferred to other schools. The roster will have to be rebuilt with new talent, and Coach Parker says he intends to do just that.
Troy is still Troy. After that, we'll work tirelessly to make sure we build this roster. That's going to take time, but we don't have a whole lot of time. We'll come to work right after Christmas. We'll start to build our roster and go at it. We'll attack visits in January. We'll get out on the road in January to fix it. And for those holes we still have after we finish spring practice, we'll continue to acquire and get through our May signing period as well to get people here in the summer to where we want to be in August.
Coming off of back-to-back conference championships, the pressure to win is high. Parker gave a message to Trojan Nation addressing their expectations for the upcoming season.
Well, with high expectations, I would say to our fan base, who I believe is one of the best fan bases in all the country, is continue to keep that passion. Expect greatness and expect us to do that, and then also let us build this roster and continue to work at it and be patient.
Whether or not Parker lives up to his predecessor, only time will tell. Nathaniel Bliss, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Speaking of Trojan coaches, the Troy women's head basketball coach has been recognized for her impressive total wins in her career. Neela Cole has that story.
5 basketball championships in the last 8 years is not an easy accomplishment for any sports team to make, but this coach made it happen for her team. Shanda Rigby marked her 450th win streak when the women's basketball team defeated Bowling Green. Since then, Rigby now has a 452 win streak, 224th of them at Troy.
It's a blessing, of course, because it shows that I've kind of had some longevity in this business. And so, the longer you're in it, the more lives you can influence. So that means a lot to me. But I've also been blessed with a great amount of winning.
While 450 was Rigby's marker a few weeks ago as of college wins, she also has a few hundred others as a high school coach. These wins specifically prepared her for the next chapter of coaching college basketball. The overall theme has been to encourage people to set higher goals and to have a faith-filled vision.
Kind of uncommon, I think, at that many levels to win that much. And I think it's taught me over and over, and it enables me to teach the young women I coach to really set a faith-filled vision. We're not just trying to take every game as it comes and see what happens, but we're striving to do special things. We're striving to do impossible things. And we're still, to this day, we have impossible things we're trying to achieve this year in this season. So hopefully that will transfer in the young ladies' lives as they go forward.
As a high school coach to have played for 3 state championships and as a junior college coach who have won out region and went undefeated for several years, Rigby still puts principles in place to have a successful vision, team, and future.
Grateful for the players that I have now and previously, and the staffs that I have now and previously. It takes a village to win championships, and I certainly did not get here by myself, and I'm grateful for all who contributed.
Neela Cole, Troy, TrojanVision News.
Troy men's basketball coach Scott Cross also reaching a major milestone in his coaching career. Reporter Tavares Dennis talking to the coach about his success and what he's looking forward to next.
300. That's the number of career wins men's basketball coach Scott Cross earned as the Trojans knocked off Georgia State earlier this month. Although 300 wins is special, Cross believes the focus should remain on his team.
The only thing you felt is, excitement over winning that particular game, and giving ourselves a chance to stay at the top of the Sun Belt Conference. The actual number 300 didn't mean a whole lot to me. Be in contention for a conference championship and win that game, that was what meant everything. We'd love to break a school record at one point here at Troy and win the most games. Love to win a Sun Belt championship. Love to win a game in the NCAA tournament.
Yes, basketball is a game, but Coach Cross uses it as a tool to develop his players into men.
All the discipline and the toughness that they have to show to play basketball, is going to make them, in my opinion, it's going to help them have more success.
Cross also has a small piece of advice for anyone interested in becoming a coach.
Finding a way to make yourself valuable to coaches, whether it's having a skill like being really, really great at Photoshop, or knowing every single player in the state of Alabama, or, just having skills and then helping coaches, being a resource for them. I think eventually it'll come back around and, they'll get their opportunity.
Tavares Dennis, Troy, TrojanVision News.
A new member of Troy's bass fishing team is turning out to be quite the catch. Camille Coney introduces us to freshman, now sophomore angler Avery Paget and his newfound fame.
Avery Paget is making waves, literally on the nation's bass fishing scene. His experience with the sport started when he was young.
I kind of grew up with it. I've always, watched it on TV, and my grandparents have a pond, and I live with walking distance from them. So ever since I was able to, throw a rod, I was down there at the pond.
When choosing where to go to college, Troy stood out to Paget.
Got to looking, what I wanted to go to school for and things like that. And, my biggest thing was, having support from the university, because, it's hard to travel and do all these things and not have, backing. And so that was another big playing factor in, where I wanted to go.
Since coming to Troy, Paget has gained attention for its success at various fishing competitions, both local and national.
A big step from high school to college. Every single one of these guys we fish against are just, they catch them everywhere they go, and we're fishing against your big Montevallo and Auburns, and they've got 70 kids on their team. So just to go out on our first tournament and qualify was a really big deal, and really just helped us continue doing well throughout our season.
Paget goes on to say how he would like to make a career out of fishing.
The dream is to fish, get out of college, fish the opens, hopefully make it, but it's definitely going to be difficult, but it's definitely the dream for sure.
Troy can also now boast that it has a competition-winning gymnastics team. Neela Cole tells us more.
Troy Gymnastics Club allows students to continue strengthening their coordinates by using bars, balance beams, and speed. The club practices twice a week and is part of the National Association of Intercollegiate Gymnastics Clubs.
And I love the environment here, and that's really why I became a part of the team, as I really just figured out how nice these people are, and it's really just something for fun, and it's not as tough as a gymnastics team would be as a USAG team. And the environment here is just so much more fun. Even if you're a gymnast before, this is just so different from anything I've ever done before.
The gymnasts began competing in meets back in February. Later on the inaugural season, they competed in the NAIGC Chop the Swamp Southeast Regional Championship and came out on top.
That title means a lot to us, especially as a first-year program. We beat out a lot of very established names, very big programs, SEC schools, ACC schools, Big Ten schools that we never expected to even be able to compete against. So bringing that title home to Troy means not only a lot to us, but also a lot to the Troy community as well, and hopefully will help the program grow and get more attention.
For those who are interested in joining the club, email the club's president at msettle@troy.edu. Neela Cole, Troy, TrojanVision News.
As students, faculty, and staff balance classes, games, productions, and other collegiate activities, many paused for what could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Emily Clegg has more.
A solar eclipse is a rare occurrence, one that hasn't happened in the United States since 2017.
The very first fall I was here, we had that first eclipse in 2017, and now we're out being able to see another one. It's really cool.
According to NASA, the Troy area only saw 78% max coverage of the eclipse. However, this didn't stop Troy students and faculty from being over the moon about the phenomenon.
I hope that the student body and community just joins together and just enjoys a
Super cool experience that only happens so often.
On any given day, you might see 1 or 2 people walking across the main quad. But on Eclipse Day, strangers gathered together, passing around glasses to watch the celestial phenomenon.
It's just so cool that the community's out here just watching it all together. It's just so cute of all the humans together just watching it. So, and I'm out here with my friends, so.
Not only did these groups of people see a partial eclipse, they had a total eclipse of the heart. Emily Clegg, Troy, Trojan Vision News.
Staying with feature news, reporter Mackenzie Foster shows us how Troy University's panel and council gave graduating seniors a traditional bid day 4 years after it was due.
Imagine you're a college freshman that's gone through a long process of recruitment and you finally get to find out what sorority you're going to be a part of. That's what bid day is. At Troy University, girls would run from the Elm Street Gym to Sorority Hill to join their fellow sisters. However, the freshman class of 2020 didn't get that experience.
We were actually one of the only 3 or 5 schools to be able to do in-person recruitment. But of course it was in classrooms and you were 6 feet away.
Holland joined Alpha Gamma Delta her freshman year of college. For the past 3 years, she's been able to watch a recruitment experience she missed out on.
Just being able to come today and get together just really shows. We had bid day on the quad, so just being able to run home to our actual house is super fun.
One senior talks about how this is a special moment for her and the other seniors who missed out on a traditional bid day.
We were the only pledge class that didn't get one, so it was really special, honestly. I was really surprised. I didn't even know it was happening, so it was really cool for it to be able to happen for us.
Troy University's Panhellenic Council holds bid day once every fall and spring semester. Mackenzie Foster, Troy, Trojan Vision News.
Staying on campus, members of the community came together to remember the life of the son of 2 Troy professors. Sarah Campbell has that story.
Heather and Onik Lewis hosted the 2nd annual O's Cool bike ride in remembrance of their son who unexpectedly lost his life in 2022.
It's all about Owen and his favorite things, and we just want to serve him to the best of our ability to keep his memory alive in all ways.
The community gathered together to not only participate in the bike ride, but also to remember the life of 2-year-old Owen Wayne Lewis.
He was the sweetest, cutest little thing with the curliest, prettiest little hair. We just want to come and support, and we loved Owen just like he was our own.
I had him as an infant. He was in our room, me and Miss Mary's room, and we loved him. He was the cutest little thing with that curly hair coming in.
The Lewises created a foundation to spread awareness about lymphocytic myocarditis and raise funds for a scholarship to give back to the community.
Every single one of these riders is helping to fund our foundation and to keep us going for the next year so that we can give more balance bikes, that we can give a bigger scholarship or more scholarship. It just means so much to see the support that we have from our community.
The event also served as a way for the community to support the Lewises on the anniversary of Owen's death.
Cool thing about living in Troy is supporting one another, and Heather and Onik are a part of this community.
It's just a way to come together and just show our love.
To help support the Lewises, people can go to the foundation's website. Sarah Campbell, Troy, Trojan Vision News.
Our last story takes us off Troy's campus and around the world. This semester, a Troy University faculty member sharing a special moment with her students during a study abroad trip to Greece. Reporter Mackenzie Foster has our final story.
In February of 2023, Abby and Ken got engaged. At the time, Abby and her students were planning a study abroad trip to Greece. During spring break in 2024, Abby and Ken got to tie the knot in Greece at the Temple of Poseidon.
The students thought it would be a great idea if I got married on the trip. I talked to my fiance about it and he was in.
The Wrights did have some help planning and executing their special day from a special group of people.
When the students said they would do everything, I was in, and we just kind of winged it. A lot of us got dressed on the bus that day because we had been on the bus since 8 a.m. and we didn't get to go back to the hotel, so they made me a makeshift dressing room in the back of the bus, and I put my dress on and and we just ran a comb through my hair, and they helped me put my makeup on, and we went out and did it.
According to Abby, the trip gave the love of her life a closer look into the career she loves.
I think it gave my husband a chance to see why I love my job so much. The students that I'm always talking about at home, he really enjoyed getting to know them, and I think they enjoy getting to know him as well.
Abby and Ken met one another at a Troy University football fundraiser. Mackenzie Foster, Troy, TrojanVision News.
When asked for her best piece of advice, Maddie says to be patient because sometimes the love of your life will come when you least expect it. And that's the 2024 spring semester in review. We thank you so much for your support that we've received all semester. Join us again in the fall for our next installment of Semester in Review. For myself and the rest of our crew here at Troy TrojanVision News, thank you so much for joining us and take care.